Amara sat in her small, dimly lit apartment, staring at the letter she had written years ago but never sent. It lay on the table before her, creased and yellowed with time. The words, written in trembling handwriting, still bore the weight of emotions she could never express aloud. Outside, rain tapped against the window, a steady rhythm that mirrored the ache in her heart. Amara had always been a quiet, introspective soul. Growing up in the sleepy coastal town of Havenbrook, she had spent most of her childhood with her nose buried in books, weaving stories of love and adventure in her mind. But the real world had always seemed more intimidating, and expressing her feelings had never been her strength. And then, there was Arian. Arian had been everything she was not: charismatic, adventurous, and full of life. They had met in high school when a shared group project forced their paths to cross. While Amara preferred solitude, Arian had a magnetic energy that drew everyone in. At first, she found his incessant chatter and boundless enthusiasm exhausting. But over time, his charm wore her down. What started as a reluctant partnership blossomed into an unbreakable friendship. Arian had a way of making her feel seen, of pulling her out of her shell and showing her the beauty in the world. He would drag her to the beach to watch the sunrise, force her to try street food she had always avoided, and encourage her to chase her dream of becoming a writer. They spent countless evenings under the stars, lying on a patchwork quilt Arian always kept in his car. He would talk about his dream of traveling the world, while she shared snippets of the stories she wrote but never dared to show anyone. But as the years passed, something shifted between them. The easy camaraderie they had shared was replaced by a tension neither of them could name. Amara began to notice the way her heart raced whenever Arian smiled at her, the way her stomach flipped when his hand brushed against hers. She tried to push the feelings aside, terrified of ruining the only true friendship she had ever known. One evening, after a late-night drive to the cliffs overlooking the ocean, Arian finally broke the silence that had been building between them. "Amara," he said, his voice uncharacteristically serious, "I need to tell you something." She turned to him, her heart pounding. "What is it?" He hesitated, his usual confidence faltering. "I think I'm in love with you." The words hung in the air, heavy and electrifying. Amara felt a surge of emotion, joy, fear, and something she couldn't quite name. But fear won out. "I don't feel the same way," she lied, her voice barely above a whisper. The light in Arian's eyes dimmed, but he nodded, forcing a small, sad smile. "I understand," he said, though the hurt in his voice was unmistakable. After that night, everything changed. Arian began to pull away, and no matter how much Amara tried to bridge the gap, the distance between them grew. A few months later, he moved to the city, chasing his dream of becoming a photographer. He left Havenbrook behind, and with it, Amara. Years passed, and Amara stayed in Havenbrook, working as a librarian and writing stories that she never let anyone read. The world moved on, but she remained tethered to the past, haunted by the love she had denied and the words she had never spoken. One day, she heard through a mutual friend that Arian was engaged. The news hit her like a punch to the gut. She realized then that she had been holding on to the hope that one day, she could make things right. But now, it was too late. In a fit of anguish, she sat down and poured her heart out in a letter. She wrote about her love for Arian, about the fear that had held her back, and the regret that had consumed her ever since. She folded the letter carefully, intending to send it, but she never found the courage. Instead, she tucked it away in a drawer, where it remained, gathering dust. A few more years passed, and Havenbrook began to feel suffocating. Amara decided to move to the city, hoping a change of scenery would help her leave the past behind. One day, while walking through the park near her new apartment, she saw a photography exhibition being set up. Curious, she wandered over, and her breath caught in her throat when she saw Arian's name on the banner. The photographs on display were breathtaking, landscapes from around the world, captured with an eye for beauty and detail. But one photo stopped her in her tracks. It was of a quiet beach at sunset, with a single patchwork quilt spread out on the sand. Tears welled in her eyes as memories of their nights under the stars came rushing back. She knew, without a doubt, that Arian had taken the photo for her. Gathering her courage, she approached the booth where Arian was signing autographs. When their eyes met, it was as if no time had passed. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Amara," he said, his voice tinged with surprise and something else she couldn't quite place. "Hi," she replied, her voice trembling. They talked for a while, catching up on the years they had missed. Arian told her about his travels, his successes, and his marriage, though he didn't mention his wife's name. Amara told him about her writing, though she left out the loneliness that had defined her life. When they parted ways, she handed him a piece of paper. "This is for you," she said, before walking away. It was the letter she had written all those years ago. A week later, she received a call from an unknown number. When she answered, Arian's voice came through the line. "I got your letter," he said. "And I need you to know. I felt the same way. I always did." Tears streamed down Amara's face as she listened to him speak. They talked for hours, sharing the feelings they had both kept buried for so long. But in the end, it didn't change the reality of their lives. Arian was married, and Amara was still trapped in her regret. When the call ended, she sat alone in her apartment, staring at the rain streaking down the window. The letter was gone, but the weight of her love and loss remained. Sometimes, love comes too late. The end.